Service to the Municipal Taxation and Revenue Advisory Committee and the City of Cape May. Thank you, Dennis. Come on up. Good. Okay. Thanks, Dennis.
Thanks.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thank you.
Just a few words. I know Aaron will be happy to know that I don't have a PowerPoint or anything like that tonight. So it'll be a very short presentation. First, let me just say a couple things. I would like to thank this council and the previous administration for giving me the opportunity to chair this committee. It's been a valuable piece of work that I've loved doing, and I appreciate the opportunity to do it. I'd also like to thank the council for listening to us as we made presentations to you, and also I would like to thank the council for actually doing some of the things that the advisory committee has recommended we do. It's been a rewarding experience to the extent that so many of the things we worked on have become the policy of the city, and for that I do thank you. Briefly, Amtrak, is this on?
You're on.
Yeah. Briefly, let me just say that Amtrak is, in my opinion, one of the most important things this city has done in some time, because it's given you the opportunity to have an institution of people who are interested, experienced, and competent to look at some of the things that you can't look at on a day-to-day basis. And it's given you some direction in that regard. So I think it's a very important thing to do, and which is really why I would like to explain why I'm stepping down from Amtrak. And that is because Amtrak is an institution. It's not a person. It's not people. It's a process. And it's a process that I think the city should continue to engage in a regular basis. It's proved its value, and it doesn't depend on me, and it doesn't depend on any one person. It depends on the membership of the Amtrak. And that is actually the second reason why I'm stepping down, because the membership of the Amtrak to date has been an all-star team of competent, experienced, and willing people who live in this town and want to help out. We have had members of our Amtrak sit on council. They haven't been as receptive to us as they were as members oftentimes, but that's because they wear a different hat. But the point is, I'm feeling very comfortable stepping down from Amtrak because I know that there are people there, in particular Martin Van Walsen. Where are you, Martin? Right here, who is going to take over as chair. And I'm very encouraged by the fact that we have a good core of people who will continue this work. So I thank you for this, and I thank you for the opportunity to serve, and good luck in the future. I'm not going anywhere. I still live on Lafayette Street, and I'm happy to see that park actually being built across the street from my house. And we'll continue on the planning board and, of course, with the Taxpayers Association. But thank you again, and thank you everybody on this table for helping out and making Amtrak a success. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dennis. Thank you again, Dennis. And going right into the meat of the agenda here, right onto our presentation of the USS Jacob Jones. Miles, John, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
Gentlemen, you can, yep. And John, you know that these can move towards you. Just speak into the microphone,
Yes.
please. Thank you.
You definitely want to speak into the mic.
I will.
Okay.
Thank you.
Need help?
Miles.
You got it.
Is it stable?
It is, I have it.
Thank you.
Set?
Thank you, gentlemen. If you want to introduce yourselves and
I'll proceed. So first of all, thank you, Mayor Mullock, and thank you all for allowing us to appear this afternoon. It's still afternoon. My name is Miles Martell. I'm a homeowner here in Cape May and have been for over 30 years, and a very active member of this community for approximately 20.
John, can you help him with, I'm getting the
Closer.
ear symbol from a couple crowd members.
I'll hold it for you.
Really? Okay, fine, thank you. I'm sorry, everyone.
Miles, before you even say anything else, anyone who doesn't know Miles was a speechwriter for President Reagan, I believe, right?
That's pretty close, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I mean, so a man who knows what he's doing when it comes to public speaking, so
Well,
no pressure.
No, I'm going to actually be using an outline here, but I chair the project that's going to be the focus of this presentation. All of you on City Council, including Mayor Mullock, have received a portfolio that contains considerable information about this project, especially the compelling history, and I underscore that compelling history that has motivated us, meaning our team. And John, I'll introduce more fully later, and with us is Jeff Elliott, Pastor Jeff Elliott, who's a founder member of our team. And I'm very pleased that he's able to join us given all the pressures he faces in his professional position. Your portfolio includes copies of the slides, yes, of my portion of this presentation. And as a result, and due to time constraints, which I fully respect, I'll be covering the slides somewhat quickly, adding brief commentary as I do. So we begin with a slide that captures the essence of our efforts and this presentation. So that's the essence. Tonight, in the next only under roughly 10 minutes, I'm going to be covering what I regard, and I think many of you already regard, as a sacred and solemn obligation. And when I use the word obligation, I mean for our nation. I'm not placing this on our community, but I feel that our community can have a very significant role, or I should say, a major role in capturing a significant opportunity. And that significant opportunity is going to be covered by my colleague John, and I'll be introducing John more fully when his turn comes in a few minutes. So first of all, I'd like to highlight a background synopsis of what brings us here this evening. And I'll give all of you a chance, despite the fact that it's in your portfolio, just to look at it quickly, and then I'll just underscore a couple of points. Maybe I'll underscore the major point right now as you look at it. It's really the second bullet, and it's the most important point within that second bullet is that the first U.S. warship following the declaration of war between the United States and Germany was sunk by a German U-boat off Cape May during the Battle of the Atlantic. And the rest you can read on your own. But I really want to underscore that second bullet because that's the essence of what brings us here tonight, or this afternoon. It's still afternoon. And this represents but one, and you'll see a few more, the coverage of the paper that most of us are most familiar with, the paper of record that we're most familiar with, the Inquirer. And this says March 4th at the top, not that you have to see it, but that's after the Naval Censorship Bureau released the story. And interestingly, this is a collection of 3 headlines because we had very active military action, mainly naval, going on in the Pacific against the Japanese. but you can see Subsinks Destroyer off Cape May as one of those headlines. And those chaps in the picture, those fellows in that picture that's underscored, are the only survivors. Thank God at least they survived, because we lost 131 sailors right off our shoreline. They were rescued, and only one body was recovered. We couldn't go to conduct a search and rescue effort because the waters were so dangerous because of the U-boats. I mean, that's how bad it was right off our shores. Moving on. So this is just a sampling, and we've done extensive research, very fulfilling research, extensive, very informative research of using newspapers.com. Some of you may be familiar with it, but there are hundreds of articles in papers throughout the United States that on the first or second page, including papers from major cities that highlight what happened right off our shores. Now, that brings me to what really brings us all together tonight. And this really is the major opportunity that John is going to talk about shortly. But there are no plaques. I'll give you a chance to review it, but there are no plaques anywhere. There are no monuments. There's nothing to memorialize that horrific tragedy that occurred off our shores. Nor are there any throughout the United States to represent a loss of a ship, except a small plaque in Portland, Maine, but no anything to commemorate what happened to all the sailors during the Battle of the Atlantic. And so that constitutes the opportunity that we in Cape May have to fulfill the solemn obligation I referred to earlier. Now, this constitutes and you just heard me allude to this, but it constitutes, these 5 points constitute the essence of our case, this compelling case that I referred to at the very beginning. And I'll just give you a chance to review this, and then what I'd like to do is to introduce John. All right, so I'd like to introduce John, who will be, this is a tag team match, and I'm tagging John, but first I want to say a few things about him. Many of you know John. He's a remarkably dedicated citizen. He lives here in Cape May full-time, and he's worked with remarkable dedication and talent as a highly regarded professional architect to help set the foundation for capturing the opportunity that you just heard me highlight. And John, please.
Thanks, everyone, for allowing us to present this evening. I'll keep this as brief as possible. Several of you have already seen the presentation I'm about to make, but I do want to thank Miles because this whole idea was his. He initiated it by forming a small committee of us, which has tripled in size, but we've been working on it for the last 10 months. So what you're about to see, I'm going to show you the first iteration of the design of the memorial, which has developed significantly since then, but the reason I'm showing you this is because in the first iteration are where the essence of the ideas that remain in the current iteration. So therefore, I'm showing you the first shot at it. So George Shoup, member of our committee, was able to find blueprints of the Whitaker class destroyers. And if you take and blow up the front bow and cut off, let's say, the first 40 feet where that yellow line is, now pick it up and put it on its side and tilt it 15 degrees and put it in a pool of water. This was the original idea, including what you're seeing here, which is that this would be the, oh, wait a minute, what just happened? Oh, there we go, okay. So on the left side of the drawing is, I'll show you the site in a moment, but the actual monument itself would sit at street level. The promenade is on the right, 3 feet 4 inches above the street level. And we did some research on what torpedo penetrations look like in a hull, and this is a sort of replication of it. So there would be a ramp up into it and a bridge across from the promenade into the inside of the monument. So if you now were to take the deck, and again, about 40 feet back from the bow, cut it, and now take that and rotate it 90 degrees, the deck face is what would face the promenade side. So on the left side of the drawing is the metal sheet that would be standing vertically, but on the right side, it's tilted back 15 degrees. And what you'll notice here is that every 4 feet, there's a line, horizontal line being drawn. Those are the station points that were used to actually design the frame of the shipbuilding. So in the middle of the drawing is a section of the frame which would be at the height of where you would walk into the memorial, except, of course, it would not be in plan like this. So on that sheet, on that front deck, facing the promenade would be 2 columns of names, the 131 names cut out in 1-inch cutout letters, so that you'll see in a minute why that is important. And then a little oculus circle, 3 feet wide, or 3 feet in diameter at the top. So the site we're proposing is the site at where Howard meets Beach Avenue. The monument itself would sit on that area of blacktop, which currently has no function at all. It's just an area of blacktop with the bridge from the promenade. I'll come back to this in more detail in a moment. But a couple of really important things. If we were to, in the upper right-hand corner, connect a line from that red dot in the bottom right-hand corner of the upper drawing, that's the sinking site. If we were to draw a direct line from the sinking site to the center of our site, notice that that would be 43.5 degrees east of solar south. And the reason that's important is because we're utilizing the solar phenomenon to recognize the fallen of this ship, which I'll show you in a moment. So what's interesting about that is when the sun, on February 28th, the date of the sinking, is directly in line connecting the sinking site to our site, you can see there's that same 43.5 degrees. That alignment occurs at 9:49 a.m. every year on February 28th. At the same time, this is called the azimuth, which is the angle of the sun in plan, but in elevation, which is called the altitude, which is important in a moment. You can see to the right side of this drawing, the altitude of the sun at 9:49, when it's directly in line with the sinking site, is 32.75 degrees vertical. So if we now were to take and cut a section through that first elevation that I showed you, and again, this is the first iteration of it, which has evolved, and now that 15-degree tilt, which would be on the right side of the drawing, if you replicate that on the inside of the drawing with another 15-degree piece of structure, you get this sort of triangular chapel-like shape inside. On that left side of it would be a mirror that's 4 feet wide and 24 feet high. And where you can see between those two slashes on the right-hand side is exactly where the 4-foot wide panel with all the cutout names would be 12 feet high. So at 9:49 a.m. on February 28th each year, the sun would cast the names and illuminate them perfectly centered in that 24 by 4 foot mirror, so that the names are actually in light as opposed to being carved in stone. So it's almost the memory of the light of their life as opposed to the darkness of their death. Furthermore, over the course of the year, as the sun travels from east to west and its altitude gets higher and lower in the sky dome during the day, those names would sort of float around as ghosts inside of this space. Additionally, where the 3-foot hole is at the top, which I call the oculus, as the sun, again at the same time, enters through that oculus, would bounce off the mirror and illuminate on the floor a 3-foot plaque, which is the plaque that we showed you at the beginning, which is the memorial plaque for the Jacob Jones. That's only a draft plaque, by the way. We are hiring a graphic designer to make it a little bit stronger. So if we now go back to the site, here's the site, but let's blow this up. So these are the drawings that Paul gave me from the engineering firm working on the promenade improvement. But if we blow that up a little bit and just show you what we're proposing here, The ramp that is currently there at Howard would remain exactly where it is in the center right of the drawing, slightly relocate the crosswalk across Beach there, add a new crosswalk on the other side of Howard, which would connect to a walkway that you see through a planted area that would connect to a stair that would penetrate through the seawall. So in plan, this monument would be sitting in what's colored blue, a little pool of water, only about a foot deep. The ramp that I showed you in that first drawing would penetrate from the left, entering from the new crosswalk walk, and the little bridge from the promenade, where on the promenade itself we would repave in that circular domain of 50 feet diameter to basically create a space for this to occupy its location. So that alignment is exactly in alignment with that 43.5 degrees connection to the site of the sinking. Real quick sketch, we plan on doing a fully, I would say, executed computer simulation of this in 3 dimensions so we can actually walk through it, even connect to your phone and you can walk on the site and walk through it as if you were there, but that's to be developed later. This is just a real quick sketch of what the frame of this thing might look like. Notice that telephone pole there on the left, just to the right of the traffic signals, 42 feet tall, or the very tip top of the monument would be 32 feet, and that pole will be removed in conjunction with the promenade improvement to bury the electrical lines so that there are no overhead lines, and therefore providing the conduit to connect electrically to the monument itself. Just showing another little view of the site, but I want to note that across the street is the Maycomer, which is 55 feet tall. So with these two sort of, I'll call them gateway objects at that point of the promenade, it sort of creates a bit of a portal, if you will, into the commercial part of the promenade itself. Well, interestingly, when we presented this first iteration, there were a whole group of folks on the call, including Lorraine and Paul and Zach. And Zach's first comment was, gee, this is great, but it's a little big. And it's a little bit opaque. Is there a way that we can make it a little smaller and a little bit more transparent? So I was about to leave on vacation that day, and I thought, well, I'll wait for a couple weeks and make a little sketch, but I couldn't. I stayed up late that night and just did a real quick little sketch of what would happen if we really just let the remnants of the frame, those station points that I'm talking about, so you can see the dashed line that is on the left-hand side of this drawing would be what the original design was in terms of its size and opaqueness. So this would essentially be an aluminum and stainless steel frame that would still have the 15-degree canted piece on the left with the mirror on it, and just a little bit of the skin. So we've removed all the skin and still potentially penetrating through the torpedo opening. And then the drawing on the right is what you would see from the promenade, again with the name plaques, and the deck actually removed a bit from the frame, so everything's kind of floating more. And actually, I find this a vast improvement because it's now much more of a piece of art and far less literal, less of a cartoon, and much more of a, I would say, an artful monument in memoriam. So what we're seeking tonight is we're hoping that you guys on City Council might grant us the approval of this conceptual design so that we can develop it further and move forward, continue with our cost estimating and our fundraising, because our committee would be paying for this. And the idea would be that we would come back to present to you when we get it fully documented. And then, of course, the second piece of what we're seeking is an approval of the site location. We looked at 3 different sites, and this one ended up being the most promising one, and we're more than happy to entertain any questions. Thank you.
I just have a comment. Thank you for allowing me to be inside your head. I mean, it is absolutely amazing, John. It's beautiful. I think it speaks to the commemoration and the honor that you're trying to give the individuals that gave their lives for this country. So you have my support. It's absolutely beautiful.
Thank you, Maureen.
Thank you.
I just have a comment. I just think this is an amazing project and a lot that everybody can get behind. When you were talking, presenting this to me the other day, you mentioned that you, in your schooling to be an architect, one of your classes was to explain it to me about historical monuments.
No, we studied pre-Columbian architecture, most of which were solar temples and calendars.
So I think, I don't know if you ever thought you'd actually use this.
Never thought I would.
But I'm so glad he did take that course, and this is going to be an amazing thing to experience.
Thank you, Shane.
happens when you stay up late.
I know, well, all,
And
all
I-
night.
I
right?
do have to attest, that email came about 1:30 in the morning. But no, it's been really a privilege to be on the outside kind of part of this. Just watching how it's developed, seeing the vision that you had, the vision, and then having John put it all together, using the sun, looking at all of the different details. It's been really a blessing for me to be part of that.
You're far too modest. You were instrumental in helping us select the site, as you recall.
So if I may add, I mean, it's impossible to hear the story without being moved. And then, what you hope when you hear the story is, well, how could you possibly come up with a monument that could possibly convey that the emotion that goes in fitting with the story and that could honor those individuals. And I see this and I say, this hits it out of the park. So it's really stellar. So I appreciate having had the opportunity to talk with you when you presented it. I mean, candidly, you told me that, you showed me those initial plans, and I was moved then just as I am now. So thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you, Steve.
Anyone who doesn't know, John is the chairperson of the Historic Preservation Commission as well. And so, John, I just appreciate everything you've done for the community. But Miles, this is, as has been said, but I've spoken about the USS Jacob Jones at a couple Memorial Day events, and it's a little shocking how many people don't know about the USS Jacob Jones. And I think it's such an important memorial and story that needs to be told. I just think it's incredible to think that there's no other memorial as well otherwise. So it's such an important part of our history, and I think you really have come up with something really special for the difficult task of memorializing that type of event. So I can't thank you enough.
Thank you, Mayor Mullock, and thank all of you. And a special thank you to the folks we've worked particularly closely with, Lorraine, and you, Mayor Mullock, and Paul, the city manager. All of you have been especially involved in helping us take the germ of an idea, the memorial, the monument, and bring us to this moment. And so thank you so much. I look forward to working with all of you in the future. And I just want to let you know that we are totally committed to being as transparent going forward as we have up to this point. And part of that transparency includes our openness to any input, any guidance, as well as your active support. That would be most appreciated. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Miles. John, would you be able to stick around for a little bit in case there is any public comment?
Sure.
Okay, because we have to move on to the budget for a moment, but
Absolutely.
if anyone does have public comment, I'd like you to be here if that's
Happy to
okay.
answer any questions.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Miles, thank you. Thank you. Okay. Actually, we have updates and old business, which I'm going to ask everyone to keep short if you can. So updates and old business, city manager?
Just real quick, I know everybody's been waiting for an update on the ADA mats, the second phase. Just got word that they should be delivered here within the week. We're hoping to be able to start putting them out within 2 weeks, schedule and weather depending. And, we anticipate being able to get, to continue the mats as close down to Madison Avenue as we can with the mats.
great.
But we also want to go back and expand along some of the existing mat and add some additional larger areas that people can make a stop off, and so that they're not, if they want to stop, they can get off the, kind of a little off to the side and enjoy and stop. So we're going to add a couple of those along the way also to increase that enjoyment that I think people have really enjoyed over this past year.
Paul, just to add to that, if you don't mind, that came out of a request from a few people who
Yes.
were in wheelchairs, would like to enjoy the beach with their family. I mean, people are just so thrilled, but to be able to get off of the path
And stop and just be able to,
and family can surround them, I think it's a wonderful idea. And also just to point out too that we are adding the handicap accessible ramp down by the cove where the steps used to be. You
Yep.
see all the construction that's going on down there. I saw them starting that recently, so that's wonderful.
so I just want a real quick update on some of the projects. So obviously the Promenade project restoration is underway. The amount of work that they have open and they're working on is the extent that they'll be working on before the summer season. They will have that all closed up and patched up, and that area will all be painted before the start of the summer season. And then we'll be right back in September to finish the rest of the promenade. The Trails project, I'll send update photos for this week. They are on schedule for a mid-May opening for that. The concrete trucks have started pouring concrete on the Lafayette Street Phase 1 area, so that's going to have a sidewalk that'll connect from Lafayette Street out to the trails. So everything is moving along with those. And Ohio Avenue, the reconstruction of the 2 blocks on Ohio Avenue is on schedule, and that will definitely be open before the summer season. So just a real quick update on those construction projects. Thank you.
The only other update is the one that everyone walked through to get to the meeting today.
Oh, City Hall parking lot.
Just seems
It-
like
it was
every
gonna be-
time, every
the
time
little bit
we
of
pave.
the little bit of rain today. It was going to be paved today, but tomorrow they'll be out paving it. They'll have stripes either Friday, early next week, and we'll have those extra 9 or 10 spaces. We are also adding. We are going to make I'll say the access way that's between the firehouse and the library one way out to Franklin, and that will allow us to install 2 handicap parking spaces as well as 2 other parking spaces along that section, and we'll dedicate those for library parking in that location. So that should all be done. Paving will be done tomorrow. Line striping,
Weather dependent.
weather dependent, yes. Thank you.
Thank you very much. City Solicitor?
Nothing tonight, Mayor, thank you.
City Council, any updates or old business? No? Okay, on to budget presentation. Leon, thank you very much for being here with us. Leon is our auditor, and we appreciate you being here.
No problem. That was pretty interesting. That was really a neat project.
Yeah,
Yeah,
thank you.
cool. A little closer? Okay. So tonight is the easy part. Tonight's the introduction, which means that we're really starting the budget process, even though it's April 15th. Budget started a long time ago, but now is when you formally introduce it. And a vote to introduce it means nothing more than we're starting the process, because we'll have the public hearing in a month, and at that time, we can amend anything that legally you're allowed to change. Like, you can't amend debt service because it's cast in stone. You can't amend the pension bills because they're already paid. Hopefully. They're already paid. So they're due April 1st. That's why I was kidding about that. So tonight's the introduction. The budget itself is compliant with both of the caps the state imposes upon you. It's also a no tax increase again. It provides everything that the city's been providing. It's allowing for capital projects more than you've been doing. That was one of the commitments on the extending the room tax another %. So that's all in play, and it's ready to go. Now, I know you just got your books, so you'll be reviewing this. We can discuss the budget many times between now and the public hearing, but no action gets taken until the public hearing. If you do amend it, and we probably have something, it would say, the amendment says that the public hearing has been held and it's desire of the governing body to amend it as such. So you can make all the plans you want between now and then, but at no meeting can you take any action on the budget until the public hearing. So I'm asking for, oops, you got a couple things to do resolution-wise, but that's where we stand right now. You're ready to go, and again, it's zero, you're compliant with everything, and there's no reason not to introduce it.
That's great. Good work, everyone, working on the 0% increase. I know it takes a lot of work. Kevin, your office has been scrambling to get this all together in the last few weeks, and I really appreciate all your hard work on it. Leon, thank you very much. Paul, thank you for all your hard work on this. Obviously, we have more work to do before this gets approved. Will this be available online for folks to be able to see?
Yes.
Kevin has the electronic file, so.
Okay, so we'll post that on the website. Perfect.
Yep.
Okay. Council, any questions? Okay. I'm sure you will this week as we get more time to review this.
I'm available whenever you want, yeah.
Perfect. Thank you. And do we have any,
I
please
may.
go ahead, Mr. Meyer.
Leon, in general, are there any things changing in the climate of the state or anything that we should be looking for the future on?
Well, you lost one piece of state aid, just like every town did, and I was just in Upper last night. They lost $650,000 of that municipal relief fund. That's 3.5 cents to them.
Wow.
But you didn't have that much to lose, so that's a good thing. Then you only lost a little bit. But the state appears to be broke, as you've probably read and heard different things. Things aren't being funded. They're worried about what they have funded. Can they make it? So I don't expect any good news out of the state this year. We'll see what happens after this election and what does or doesn't become of the governor and lieutenant governor and the assembly. State health benefits, which is a big issue. The percentages aren't looking good for next year either. Did you get your mid-year report? There's a mid-year report that came out. Did you see that? Yeah, I know, yeah. So as I'm saying, that the state health benefits is way out of whack, even though you're not in it, but it's an issue that is causing a lot of aggravation in towns. This is your first year out of it. So that's...
Leon, if
state-
I could just expand on what you're
Yeah.
saying for the public. The city did get out of state health benefits for exactly the reason. The last 4 years really have seen significant increases.
20-some percent, 17%, it's big numbers, yeah.
I mean, 27% in 1 year, 17% in the next. I
Right.
mean, very, very big increases, which makes up a significant portion of the budget. Yeah. Okay. Do we have any resolutions for this evening?
We have a few. Do you want to speak to the cap budget? Usually you give just a little brief
Oh,
explanation.
okay. The one ordinance that you're going to do, and it has to be in this order, and Erin has it in the proper sequence, is an ordinance that allows you to raise up to 3.5% increase. This 2.5% is guaranteed, 1% you have to do an ordinance for. You know nothing's not up by more than 3.5% right now, so it's a must to do this. Every town does it. In the past, we've done this as a casual ordinance that you don't really need it, but we're doing it. We do need it this year, and we'll probably need it next year, just like almost every town in New Jersey does. So all this is saying is that we're doing an ordinance to raise the allowable increase in appropriations to 3.5%, up from 2.5%. So it's a 1% increase overall.
Okay.
So if council is ready, we do have that ordinance for introduction. It's 558-2025, an ordinance to exceed the municipal budget appropriation limits and to establish a cap bank for the calendar year 2025.
Do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Do I have any questions or comments, council?
Leon, you usually say we're not exceeding anything.
We're not exceeding anything yet. We have room left.
Thank you for make sure that's in the minutes, please. Any other questions or comments, council? Roll call?
Councilmember Meyer,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor McDade,
Yes.
Councilmember Bodnar,
Yes.
Councilmember Baldwin,
Yes.
Mayor Mullick.
Yes.
So we have Resolution 15604, 2025, resolution for the approval by council of the local municipal budget. That's the introduction.
And this is for the introduction, too. So thank you. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any questions or comments? Roll call?
Councilmember Meyer,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor McDade,
Yes.
Councilmember Bodnar,
Yes.
Councilmember Baldwin,
Yes.
Mayor Mullick.
Yes.
And the next is 15704, 2025, a resolution for governing body certification of compliance with the United States Equal Employment Opportunity Commission's enforcement guidance on the consideration of arrest and conviction records and employment decisions under Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964.
Do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any questions or comments, council? Roll call?
Councilmember Meyer,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor McDade,
Yes.
Councilmember Bodnar,
Yes.
Councilmember Baldwin,
Yes.
Mayor Mullick.
Yes.
All right. That's it for budget.
So on the budget, any questions, you know how to get me, and anytime you want. And if not, I'll see you in a month.
Okay.
And this will be uploaded under the finance reporting portion of our website.
Yeah.
Okay.
And with the state.
And with the state. Yes.
Oh, by the way, you're self-exam, so that means the state's not even going to look at this. So between Kevin and I, we swear that everything's okay in here, and you're all set to go.
Okay. I'll just say to the public, as we're just getting this as well, it'll be uploaded to the website. So if you do have any questions or comments on it, please feel free to reach out to any one of us, certainly our city manager, and hopefully we can get your question answered.
Public
Thank you.
hearing, May 20th.
And we'll have the public hearing May 20th.
Let me just double check that. Yes, May 20th, we're going to schedule that for.
Perfect. All right, Leon, thank you very much. Have a wonderful evening.
Thank you.
Okay. On to ordinances for second reading.
Yes, tonight we have 555-2025, an ordinance amending Section 434 of the City Code to establish limits on recycling collection and require private collection for amounts exceeding those limits.
Do I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
We won't bite, I promise.
Good evening, Council. Ordinance 55525,
I'm sorry, sir, can you please state your name?
Peter
and
Cole, 1075 Michigan Avenue.
address? Thank you.
I'm also president of the Taxpayers Association, and I'm talking on behalf of the Taxpayers Association tonight. Ordinance 555-2025 is a change from the old ordinance, which was for residential pickup of recyclables only. I have to say that I was hoping that since the last time I was here two weeks ago, that you might have thought of tabling this ordinance, but clearly you haven't. So I'd like to go on and say that you know that the TPA is opposed to the ordinance, and I'm going to read out why we're opposed. Both businesses and residents pay taxes. Businesses should not receive additional services at the expense of residents. Trash and recycling collections are business expenses that should be covered by business, not subsidized by taxpayers. Increased pickup volume will require additional recycling trucks. Trucks cost taxpayers approximately $1 million per vehicle. Expanding services will increase the public works budget. More trucks, more workers, higher payroll costs, further burdening the taxpayers. Trash collection is the #1 cause of workers' compensation claims. Expanding services, increasing injury risks and insurance costs. Fairness, it's a matter of fairness. City services should be equal for all taxpayers, regardless of the amount they pay in taxes. Now, it was agreed by Council some time ago that with any new ordinance that has a cost to it, the cost basis would be presented up front and clear for all to understand. That was my understanding at meetings that we had at TPA meetings with the city. But that is not true in this case. I believe it is absolutely wrong that a vote on this ordinance should be taken without knowing the cost. Not only that, it's been written in, I believe, in this ordinance today, that there may be more than one pickup. Well, more than one pickup means more costs. So I'm going to ask you, how can you vote when you don't know how much it costs? Isn't it negligent on your part not to know this? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Cole. I'll respond quickly and allow other people to speak, because I know there's others that want to speak. I think every council member knows up here that with this ordinance, we've managed to upset both residents and businesses, which is not our goal, obviously. But we've heard it from both sides. We've heard you need to collect everybody, and you need to collect more. And we've heard you need to collect less, okay? So we assigned 2 council members, I won't even say their names up here, to work together to try to come up with a compromise that included many voices, people in the business community, but frankly, especially our Department of Public Works and our city manager, to come up with the best solution we possibly could. I think if you polled every council member individually about their love of this ordinance, I don't think any single one of them would tell you that they love the ordinance. But when you say that there is the cost is unknown, truly there's a budget, and that cost is in this budget, I assure you, for the trash collection. Is there an unknown cost? Perhaps. We could not predict exactly how many cans will be put out there and everything. But I can tell you it has been said at this table by multiple council members that we don't necessarily support increasing that budget. We've asked the Department of Public Works, do you believe that you would be able to do this amount of pickup under your current budget? And the answer has been yes. They can't swear to that and know for certain, but what you have heard from certain council members up here, including myself, was that I don't support necessarily majorly increasing this budget, and perhaps if this comes back that we're unable to pick up within that budget, then we may have to trim back, and that would be another change to the ordinance, and that would have to be discussed by everyone up here. But I want to answer your question, but then allow others to speak, because I know there's more people that want to speak. So go ahead, Mr. Cole, I'm sorry.
Just one more thing. Why did you want to change the ordinance in the first place?
Good question. Not one single council member brought this to our attention. Actually, the Department of Public Works did. If anyone didn't get to see it, they presented a picture slideshow of, frankly, some of the mess that they had to pick up. And as you mentioned, the current ordinance does not have commercial pickup. So the question from multiple business owners, why are they being picked up and why am I not being picked up? And the truth is we didn't have a good answer, and that is the genesis to why this ordinance is being updated.
Good evening. My name is Les Bear, 1107 Beach Avenue. I sympathize with council on this topic. This is a tough one. I've been on that side of the table, and I know how it feels. I guess I would like to commend council and previous councils for what you've done in recycling. You're stellar compared to a lot of communities very near to you. You've done a great job. You posted rules, and people needed to adjust to those rules. And they did. Took a while, but they got there. And your collection people do a wonderful job. If it's not to standard, it's not going to be picked up as it should. Thank you. I appreciate that. However, I think we need to take a step back. And would it be good to enlarge the focus group to look at this topic beyond council? Get representation maybe from some other entities that have a lot of input, could have a lot of input to this. It's a tough topic. There's no right or wrong answer, but I'm a lot older than most of you. I remember seeing those pictures on TV of the plastic floating on the ocean, coming up on the beaches. We don't need that. We need to pick that recycling up and put it where it's supposed to be. And to compromise that by reducing the number of containers, you know what's going to happen with that material. It's going to go in the trash. It's not going to go to a private carrier to pick up recycling. Many people are going to avoid that additional expense and put it in the trash, in a plastic bag that we're not going to see. None of us want that. Recycling is being done away with in a number of communities because of the expense. Let's not let Cape May to do that. I realize you've done a great job on your budgets over the last number of years with no increases. And I commend you for that. Not many communities can do that either. You've done a good job. But this is maybe not an area that you want to cut. I mean, if the issue is with commercial, if it's with the number of containers, let's look at the condo associations, for an example. Most of those folks aren't there year-round. So why limit those organizations? Because when you cycle that for the entire year, they're probably way below the average residents, but yet you're cutting back on the number of containers for those associations. I'm not sure I understand that. I'm asking you to revisit this, to continue to study this matter. I'm not sure what the proposed effective date is for the ordinance, but many of the associations have their budgets already in place for '25, I would hope so, and they don't have the additional funds to use a private carrier for something beyond the limit that you've set. Please table this and let's continue to work on it. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else wishing to speak?
Hello, I'm Charity Clark from the Cape May Chamber. So I wanted to speak on behalf of the businesses of Cape May. You know, I always felt confused why there seemed to be a separation between businesses and residential. I feel like we are all here merged together and working together constantly to make this city beautiful. The residents need the business, and the business needs the residential. And we all are taxpayers. And when you look at commercial, they're typically paying taxes on a much larger piece of land. They're typically paying, well, they are paying taxes appropriate for the size of their building and the size of their lot. So I don't feel like there should be a separation. And to the point, fairness. They're paying the appropriate amount of taxes for their property. It is fair that they would get all the services that a residential property would get. And in fact, the businesses in so many ways subsidize our budget to keep the taxes down for the residents. Our businesses bring in so much revenue that the residents are able to take and balance out their budgets to keep their taxes down. So I thank the board for going down the direction of including commercial pickup, and I think it should always be looked at in a fair way. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else this evening?
My name is Steve Samaro. I have, my family has 3 businesses on the 300 block on Washington Street Mall. I'm also co-chairman of the Business Improvement District. Just to refresh you, the Business Improvement District takes a huge expense off of the city. We do all our own landscaping. We do all our holiday decor, which costs bundles of money. Hillary here is in charge of landscaping, probably for the last 10 years. She probably has 2,000 hours in that. We did not have good lighting on the mall, so we lit up the trees. That still didn't work. And then my wife, Pam, got the idea of going around to merchants and asking for donations. She was asking for $2,500 a store. And she got it. And they put those lights up, $68,000. And Mike Bowl at the time was so impressed, he threw in some money for the Carpenter's Lane. So, I mean, we take our mall very seriously. I mean, Cape May is not just a beach town. It's a destination town. And you have the beach, you have the beautiful homes, you have Mac, you have carriage rides, you have it all here. And you have some nice shops. And that's what makes it a complete destination. And that's what drives the property values up and keeps the taxes low. So just take into consideration that all the help we can possibly get, we need. And Cape May always wants to keep its best foot forward. We don't need to see messes out behind buildings. So try and take care of that recycling. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. And the bid does do a wonderful job, not that we necessarily have to say that, but really, it's, and I think each year you see the improvements, really. And Hillary, thank you to the bid, and Lorraine, as the liaison, thank you so much for that. Yeah. Pastor?
Pastor Jeff Elliott from Cape May Lutheran Church. I was not planning on speaking tonight. However, I was for years, from the beginning of the Green Team, I was a member, and for years the chair of the Green Team here in Cape May. And just not to complicate things, but to say something we should consider in the future of this, plastic recycling is being understood more and more by the environmental community to be almost a fallacy. A bill of goods that was sold to us, but doesn't really work. They put trackers on various pieces of plastic, and some end up in the middle of the ocean, and some end up in other countries in landfills. But to say it recycling is almost zero with plastic, and it's something we're going to have to look at as a nation, as communities. If it's a huge cost to recycle plastic and it doesn't end up being recycled at all, then what's the point of it? Just something to consider for the future, and I thank you.
Thank you, Pastor. Anyone else? Yes. Yeah.
Bill Seeger, Vermont Avenue. Business recycle collection and disposal at the expense, or even partial expense, of Cape May's residential homeowners. That just doesn't sound right to me. From a business, community, and American perspective, that you would take money from a homeowner to underwrite the cost incurred by a profitable business. And I want to request that you look at this holistically. This is just a part of a much grander issue. From the homeowner's perspective, there are way too many organizations and taxing entities coming after homeowners, all looking for a piece of the money out of their pocket. And in Cape May, most of the residents, at least the year-round residents, are older and or totally retired, and their income comes limited from Social Security and retirement plans. A lot of these people in Cape May don't go off to work every day. They can't work overtime to pay for additional expenses. So, in the theme of looking at this holistically, keep in mind the following facts on what the resident homeowners here in Cape May are taxed with. The county tax, first of all, represents 29% of what a homeowner pays in their whole taxes. They don't get nearly the value in return because the city doesn't get nearly the value in return from the county of which we pay, including the sales taxes. The regional school tax represents 25% of what a homeowner pays. We all know, we've been fighting that issue for years, we don't get in return the proportion of the monies that we pay into the regional school tax. We just don't have many students that go to the high school from the city. The district school tax, the elementary school. Now, that only represents 6% of the typical homeowner's tax bill. But over 50% of the students in that school come from the Coast Guard. And they do not contribute 50% of their operating funds for that school. So additional funds need to come from the homeowner residents. And the local city tax represents 34% of the tax bill. Now, it's great news that we're going to keep that unchanged. We may be able to justify, even as homeowners, that we should be maybe making a little bit of an adjustment in there to take some out to set it aside for a rainy day. And I'm going to talk about those rainy days in a second. But it's not necessarily there to tax the people to move the funds from homeowners to businesses. And this underwriting business expenses by the homeowners is a real issue. Now, what's the outlook for these different tax buckets of tax money? Well, the county. Well, we know we don't get, as I said, nearly what the return versus what this city puts into it. And there's no sign that we're going to get that in the near future. The regional school tax, tried and tried, never have we gotten very far with making an adjustment or even getting out of the agreement. So that's going to continue to haunt us. Plus, the way the state is reducing school aid, especially in the southern part of the state, to take that money and give to the middle and the northern part of the state, it's going to come back to the homeowners, especially in Cape May. They're going to come back to this well again and rip money out of our pockets to pay for the high school. It's coming, and if you don't think it is, believe it, it is.
Excuse me, Mayor Mullock. It's been 5 minutes.
Thank you.
I only have one more
You're okay.
page.
You're okay. You're okay.
I'm okay, thanks. The local city tax, which is, like I said, the greatest burden, we don't have a big tax increase coming. But somewhere down the road, whether it's a year or two, there's going to be a water bill come due. And you know the rates are going to go up. Who knows if there'll be a special assessment to pay for what's going to have to happen with the water treatment. So going back into the same pocket over and over. And I'm not talking about a business pocket where you can charge 25 cents more for a Coke, or you can, do things business-wise to offset expenses. But the number one way to offset expenses is not to have somebody else pay them for you. Again, most of the residents are older. They're set incomes. You can't keep holistically all these different things coming at them. We're going to be chasing people out of Cape May, people who own homes. Having a recycle pickup paid for by somebody else isn't going to save a business that's on the brink. Like I said, they can adjust what they charge. So what do I suggest? I suggest that council table what you have and reconsider seriously, because I don't think it's been considered seriously, what the Taxpayers Association has proposed. And that is one 96-gallon can, or whatever the size is, per tax-paying address. That that formalizes what the businesses get. Right now, as you said earlier, we don't know what they get. It's whatever Public Works chooses to service and how much they choose to take. So if you formalize it that every tax-paying address gets one bucket once a week, that's it. If you have more than that, you're going to have to hire somebody to do it for you, or take it to the city's recycling dumpsters that are absolutely free. So there's options to take care of this as a business owner rather than just having somebody else pay for this business expense. I suggest that you seriously consider that and seriously consider implementing that for a 90-day period. You don't have to commit to life for it. You don't have to sign it in blood. If you commit to do that in 90 days, Public Works should have a real good handle on whether or not they can absorb every business in Cape May with at least one container once a week. And once they prove that they can do that, and they feel confident that they can do that, then maybe they'll consider moving up the volume. But the volumes that you're talking about, first of all, are a little complicated for a recycle person to understand and get through. I can't understand it. So make it simple. 1 gallon per tax-paying address. Try it out for 90 days, see how it goes, and then you can consider whether or not there should be any more absorbed. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Seeger. Just a couple quick comments. One, you could argue how the money is used or whatever within the budget, but I just want to be clear that in the budget, this 2025 budget, which I know you haven't even seen, so there's no significant increase in our recycling budget, right? So my point in saying that is when anybody says that, you know, we're subsidizing businesses or whatever, okay, I don't think that's necessarily completely true, okay, because the budget hasn't changed from last year other than the normal percentage, 3% or whatever it might be. Don't quote me on that because I will find it. But my point is, I think look, the fact is we want to collect the most, you heard from the pastor, I mean, we want to collect the most recycling we possibly can. We don't want people to start throwing things in the trash to avoid recycling it. 96 gallons, if anyone who doesn't know this, you know, that is the really big green can that you see on wheels, okay? So frankly, I have 5 people in my residence. Some of them are not as clean as they probably should be. I could get away with one 96-gallon can personally myself with 5 people in my family. So I think it frankly is giving plenty of gallonage to your resident.
Nobody in Village Green needs more than one recycling can.
Right, right. So the other buckets, as you put it, which I like, of tax things that are on your tax bill, we have no control. I mean, you know that. I sympathize with it. I have my electric bill. I start crying when I read it as well, believe me. But what we do control, as you said, we've tried to keep as flat as we possibly can. Just please believe us that we agree with what you're saying. I mean, we want to make Cape May as affordable as possible, especially for those on a fixed income. We can't control all those outside things, as you know.
No, but at least as the governing body, on behalf of all these people, you need to think holistically, the whole thing. You don't have to bear their problem, but you have to be sensitive to their problem. So if by not doing something over here that requires a taxpayer to pay more or to see their monies shifted where they don't believe they should be shifted, you need to be sensitive to who else is reaching into their pocket, whether it's the school district, the county. I didn't even mention the state. I mean, that gentleman, Mr. Costello, said they don't expect any help from the state of New Jersey. Well, that's a pretty big warning signal, and because of that and a lot of things I've spoke about, I wouldn't be asking the taxpayers to have their monies shifted around in your budget, not even if it's going up, but even reallocating it to help businesses that make a profit. I heard comments about the businesses here make it a better place to live. They certainly do. And so do the people, and so is the ocean and the beach and everything. But they're not here necessarily to benefit from the funds coming from the taxpayers through the city. Your organization, sir, you get how much from the city each year? $100,000?
Let's keep it to council.
Okay, all right. But I'm just saying,
Thank you.
everybody's looking for a piece of the pie here.
Understood.
And let's just be judicious on the decisions we make on how it affects everybody.
So, Mr. Seeger, if we're
And I apologize, I thought you were.
we are past 5 minutes pretty.
I understand. You were gracious.
And I just want to make sure everyone gets a chance.
No,
Okay.
I agree. Just reconsider what you're about to vote on. Think about what the taxpayers' proposal was, but as the other gentleman suggested, you think a little bit wider than you have so far.
Thank you, Mr. Seeger.
Mr. Roush, do you want to sit down? Okay.
Jules Roush, 1010 New York Avenue. I'd like to reiterate what Mr. Seeger just said. The TPA was very judicious in our evaluation of this problem. We spent several years now talking about recycling. This isn't new to us. And when we came up with a program of one for residential and one for commercial, we looked at that as being fair and equal and gives the opportunity for many people that have a small business. That'll satisfy their needs as well. And if they've got a particular time of the year, like in May and June when they're getting new product in and they need to get rid of a lot of cardboard, they can take it down to the Public Works. It's easy to do. But I passed out photographs. I know the city took photographs. I think there were like 20 photographs that showed the problem that commercial recyclables has caused in the town. You know, for 30-some years, this community had an ordinance that required commercial to take care of their own recyclables, and the city picked up the residential. It was not a problem until the commercials pushed to have theirs collected. And then it was done without any change in the ordinance, and it just came about. Well, that was not a fair and equitable solution. It just happened. And it should not have happened, and I'm not talking necessarily this administration, but it should not have been allowed to exist. The community created the problem by allowing commercial collection of recyclables. When you go into business, and I've been in a number of businesses, and I've built buildings, and I've owned and managed buildings, you go into business with the anticipation of making a profit. And part of your profit is determined by what your expenses are. And if you're not going to be able to make a profit, you're probably not going to want to go into that business. Well, one of the obligations you have is to dispose of your recyclables, just like your other waste materials. And I believe there's a part of this ordinance that talks about the grease traps. This is an ongoing problem with the city, with an increasing number of what I'll call restaurants that are disposing of their waste in an improper way. I'll leave it go at that. It's got to be fair and equitable. You're not in a position, in my view, to subsidize industry or business at the expense of the general taxpayer. We proposed a fair and equitable way to do it, and I think it should be taken under advisement. Thank you.
Mr. Roush, I just want to say this to you specifically. As the Vice President of the taxpayers?
Yes.
I just want to thank the taxpayers because while we may not agree perfectly on this topic, you've invited us to come speak to you, have let it be well known that you disagreed, but it wasn't like some secret or something. I do appreciate that, and I hope you understand that this is not an easy decision for anyone up here.
Now, we have tossed around the issue of what does it cost? The TPA had asked for, 2 years ago, what does this recycling cost us? We don't know. I don't know that you really know, other than the bottom line. I don't know that you have been able to separate commercial from residential. That might be difficult to do in itself. But there was a point up until 2017 when everything was being done to collect only residential. So we knew up until that time what our costs were. Beyond that, we don't know. But we've got to be able to fund in a reasonable way the cost and for the public to know what that is. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else this evening on this topic?
Stacy Shan, 928 Columbia Avenue. I really feel that it should be equal for taxpayers and residents with 196 gallon per business and resident, and not increase the recycling. I think you keep saying Public Works was here, but if anybody watched the Public Works presentation, they were overwhelmed with the amount that they were receiving, and they were looking for help in reducing that amount. Again, it's been said, recycling is a business expense that should be covered by the business. Last year, you were picking up businesses without it being in the ordinance. So to say that it's not going to go up, you really don't know, because it's been increasing since you've been allowing businesses to be picked up. Public Works is going to need more manpower if there's more materials to be picked up. The city services should be equal and fair for all taxpayers, regardless of the amount of taxes paid. One of the businesses from the bid, I think Charity was talking about, they pay on this lot, they pay this. No, that's not how public service, how services work for the city. Everybody is equal. If you have a house in Village Green or if you have a big house on Beach Drive, you pay different amounts in taxes, but your services are the same. It's not like, because you pay more in taxes, we're going to collect you more. That's not how it works. The fire truck doesn't go to the house that pays the most taxes. It's all fair. What I'm concerned about with this resolution is the paragraph in C that states, notwithstanding the above, the city manager and the municipal recycling coordinator shall have the authority to direct the manner of collection for business owners owning and or operating or occupying properties within the Washington Street Mall Business Improvement District, BID, as set forth in Chapter 505 of the City Code for purposes of assuring safety and attractiveness of the district. That's what concerns me right there. That means that the city manager can change how many times a week recycling is picked up for the businesses. So you're saying once a week now? I heard Mr. Meyer on the first reading saying, hey, if you need more, just let us know. No. So now that's a little caveat in there that, don't worry, we're saying this, but if you need more, we're going to stop by and pick yours up once, twice, 3 times a week if you have more recycling. That's where we can't have it increase. That's why I'm saying once a week, one can, 196 gallon per resident and business. It's equal, it's fair to everyone. Businesses make a profit and they shouldn't be relying on the taxpayers to, have the recycling picked up 3 times a week because they need it? It's a business expense and they should pay for it. Thank you.
Can I make a comment,
Thank you.
Mayor?
Go ahead, Ms. Meyer.
I just want to thank everybody for your comments. There's a couple comments I want to kind of refer to, or, go talk about real quick. One was we should table this, look at this. We should look at this longer, we should table it. Well, we've been working on this for 6 months, ladies and gentlemen, and we have to do something now before summer. And, I think a lot of your thoughts were, 90-day trial period. This is basically a trial period. There's not a date on this, but we are all anticipating looking at this into the future and making changes. My comment about seeing what the businesses need is part of our information process. There are some unknowns that we've discussed here moving forward. We need as much information as possible going into this trial period that if we need to make decisions, we will make decisions. And I just want to take the opportunity to thank everybody that has worked so hard on this. I want to thank the Public Works, Eric and Frank. I want to thank all their employees that do such a great job keeping our streets clean. I want to thank everybody at this table. We've had multiple meetings over the 6 months. I want to thank the members of the public who have invited us out, the businesses who have invited us out, the phone calls and the emails that we received. And like the mayor said, we're not making everybody happy here. We're probably making everybody upset with this. But with all the negotiation that we have done, the 10 people that have been involved, I think we've come up to something that we are willing to push out, basically at the last minute. We got to do something before summer, ladies and gentlemen. We have to have some kind of standards and practices in order. And I think this is not going to be the end of it, unfortunately. We are probably going to see this again at the table in a year from now, and we can make changes. But if we don't do something now, we don't know. We're not going to be able to learn the unknowns. And I think unfortunately, this is a little bit of a rocky road for us. But, I think every member of the city council can add or take away things from this. And the one clause that Mrs. Sheehan brought up was added and taken away and then added again. So, there's been a lot of negotiation amongst ourselves. And I'm very proud of the work we've done together in as much as we did. So just please bear with us. This is a process, and this is part of the process.
Thank you, Mr. Meyer. Kelly?
Well, you've already made up your rounds, which I knew an hour ago, but I'm Kelly Carter Courier, 398 Congress Street. I don't like to speak, but I'm a taxpayer. I think we should just have one container, try it, and you know what? If the businesses need more, get their asses in a truck and bring it to the recycling center like we do every week. It's free. And try it and see what happens. That's all. And yeah, it does look like a mess down in the town. So, but they have a lot of workers there and they can bring it down and it's really easy to do. They're very nice down there. They even help you unload if you need it. So anyway, I came because I've been gone for the last few months. And that's another thing, having an ordinance like this, doing it in the wintertime when most of the city is not here. I know, it's a game. Have fun. Goodbye.
Thank you, Kelly. Anyone else?
Mayor Moloch, I'd like to make a
Please.
comment if it's okay.
We have,
So-
just to be
sorry.
clear, we have an introduction and a second, correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
I know.
That's okay.
Got a motion in a second.
Yeah, a motion and a second. Thank you. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Yeah, so worked on this. We started this in September. So in September, we had a presentation by our Public Works supervisor and assistant supervisor. And it was clear that these gentlemen were out there collecting what was really beyond what was reasonable. So we sat down and we started talking to them, the experts, right? I don't pretend to be an expert in recycling or how to manage what needs to be picked up, when it needs to be picked up, or what the scope of that might be. The one thing we've heard is that there's going to be new costs. There are no new costs. That was made clear when we were having our meetings. What can you do with your current staff, with your current trucks, no additional expense, to be able to manage and control what we can? We took a look at ordinances at other local municipalities. We looked at what was going on in the market in South Jersey with other municipalities that were trying to contract on behalf of their community and what they were dealing with. And what we tried to do was come up with the best possible solution. But the primary goal in my involvement in this was to help the public workers. This was not to be a debate between residents and commercial, although it's turned into one. And so I want to bring it back to the reason why we started this. And that was to be able to give that group of individuals, those employees, some understanding of what their job scope was supposed to be, reasonable and manageable within the scope and the parameters that they had under their direction. No new additional cost by personnel or equipment. So that's the baseline here. At the last meeting, we discussed the fact that there's a lot of concerns about, well, are we going to be taking on more? Well, quite frankly, if you can't get your recycling as a business within these parameters or as a condo association, you are going to have to contract with someone to come pick up your recycling. So there may be people who are deselecting out because they're not going to be able to be part of the program. We don't know that. There's a lot of unknowns on the commercial side of this. What we didn't want to do was completely abandon it because the experts in the field assured us, look, we can do this, we can manage this. They have the parameters. If a business or an association doesn't meet those parameters when those gentlemen are out on the street, they will alert their leadership and they will get notified. Sorry, you're over the limit. You're going to need to make adjustments. We sat at this table at the last meeting and we discussed that we expect a report back in November from the Public Works leadership. We need to understand what their experience has been. Tonight we're in April. We've been dealing with this for 6 months. We have an ordinance on the books that does not align with operational parameters that are going on each and every day in the city. As a council member, I can no longer accept that I've got something that says this is our regulation and our law, and this is what we have people doing in practice. Those don't align. Did this take longer than it should have? Yes, because we've been working at this internally to try and come up with some compromise. But at the end of the day, we can't just say to the business community, good luck. That's not fair to them either. And we can take the hit for that, and I'll take the hit for that. But at the bottom line is you can't just turn around and say you have one can and figure it out. With all due respect, that's just not reasonable to do. To a small business, independent personnel, or a large corporation. They may not find that they're going to have someone ready and available to take on their book of business in a 2-week period. We're coming into the summer season. Think about what it would look like if we just left this without putting some parameters around it. Now, the businesses have known that they're going to have to probably make adjustments. This document has been out there, so I hope that they made some plans accordingly. And for those that can manage under these parameters, we'll pick it up, we'll track it, and we will have a report back in November from Public Works. And at that time, we, as a council, and you as the public, will be educated on what this program has looked like for the last 6 months. But until that time, there's a lot of supposition as to what's going up, what's going down, what's costing us more. Honestly, we don't have that information. We know what it costs right now to run Public Works doing what they're doing. We do know that cost. That's what we know. So, again, as the mayor stated at the beginning of this is not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. But the reason we started this was not to get into a war between the residents and the commercial. It was to address a concern raised by employees. So that's what we set out to do. So I would implore all of you to please allow us to go through this process, to gather the data, and I will make the commitment that there will be a report back at a public meeting with the information. Eric, Frank, you will give us that information, correct? Yes, okay. I just want to make sure because I can't get the information without them. We can't get the information without them. So again, this is far from perfect, but it is not over. So tabling it is not an option because if we table it, we have an ordinance and we're leaving and stranding a commercial entities in this city. And that obviously would not be fair to them either. So, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other council questions or comments?
Actually, if I may, I'm struck by the comment that, the city doesn't know how much money it costs to pick up residential recycling, and the city doesn't know how much it costs to pick up commercial recycling. And that is spot on, because we don't have it broken down. We can't break that down. But we know what our reality is. We know how much the city is paying for recycling, for the work that is being done right now. And one of the, when, in looking at that, what we know in this discussion and where we are with dealing with this ordinance is that the cost that we are focused on for 2025 in the budget for recycling will address this ordinance. It's not going to require additional personnel to be hired. It's not going to require additional equipment to be purchased. So our decision cannot be based off of that analysis of how much is residential, how much is commercial, but we have to deal with the reality that we have. And that's what we're wrestling with. I know from that and the decision that I think we have all made is to provide some level of service for everybody in Cape May. There have been a lot of remarks, a lot of comments about fairness, and I think that there's that perspective, and I think my own perspective is what you find is fairness, and your view of it is a somewhat elusive concept in here. It depends on your point of view. And I know that what we are trying to do is strike that balance. And in striking that balance, do we have an ordinance that looks great and satisfies everybody? The answer is no. But what it does do is it does provide standards that we do not have now. Standards regarding the amount of recycling tank that can be put out for residents as well as for commercial properties. And guess what? Some of those commercial properties, they may not be happy with these standards. They may say that's not enough. But these are the standards that we are looking at and believe that are appropriate, and from this viewpoint is fair as we can possibly get. It's also, there have been, look, the issues regarding curbside presentation. We don't have any standard right now for curbside presentation. I would expect changes to be done and enforcement to be involved in this process, so that the issues that we've talked about before, when we have seen recycling all over the place, not containered properly, or not bundled, so it's blowing around in storms, that this has to change. We know this has to change. There's an expectation that it has to change, and to me, it's not just, the end is not the passage of the ordinance, it's the enforcement of the ordinance as well. The last thing I just want to add is, I don't want to be repetitive, but this look back in November is significant. To me, that's not just window dressing on this whole matter, but we need to get through the season. Because right now, we are speculating as far as what actually is going to happen over the course of the season. But we're speculating based off of input from the people that are out there on the street doing the job and telling us what they see, what they do, what they are capable of handling. So, look, we're relying on and those folks, trust their opinion, and we'll see what happens. And in November, we'll take that information, we'll look at it again, and I know we're going to have a thorough discussion. I look forward to having a thorough discussion about that in November and see where we are. And if we need to make some adjustments at that point, then we'll be ready to have that conversation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Sure, please. I agree with what everybody said up here. We absolutely have to do something. Just to also make it clear, we are reducing the amount of recycling that we are picking up for businesses. So people don't seem to get that. We received from DPW, and your information was wonderful, but we received quite a few spreadsheets. There are businesses that are not going to be picked up. There was a comment about the Washington Street Mall, the bid area. That area is very congested. You take a look at the detailed information that we received from DPW on that. Most of that is pretty much in compliance. They do a lot for the city of Cape May, as well as the other businesses. So we are not picking up nearly as much as what we have. There are some that are going to be dropped off. But I want to look at a little bit of the history of where we have been. We used to pay for recycling back pre-217, 218, and that included a lot of the businesses. The city decided to take it on themselves. They did that. The ordinance changed to what we are looking at now, which does not include the businesses, but yet they were, I'm sorry, can't hear, but they were included in the commercial pickup, and it stayed the same. So I don't know what the intent was with that, but we absolutely have to address this new ordinance. 3 things that I think businesses really bring to a municipality is definitely job creation, where we can't look at this as a one-size-fits-all. Job creation, community development, looking at what the businesses do for the city, and it also, when a thriving community or thriving businesses increase, property values. You take a look at what's really happened in this city over the past few years. I think this is a really good compromise as far as what we looked at, what we had in place, what we weren't abiding to what we came up with, and then looking at it in the fall. I think it's going to be a better light on what we need to do, and that's something that DPW is going to have to provide us the information on. So,
Mayor, can I say one more thing?
Please, go ahead.
I just want to say one more thing, and it's going to be a warning to the businesses. There is going to be a limit. If you go over that limit, I think you get one pass on that, but if we will stop picking up your recycling, and you're going to have to satisfy your situation with the city manager before you get it picked up again. So this is a hard line that we're drawing here as well.
Thank you for that. I won't say everything that's already been said, but I do want to just specifically thank Eric and Frank and your whole staff. One thing that I have learned, and this isn't just to butter your bread or anything, but looking at the costs that we pay, you guys run a lean operation and you run it professionally. Looking back at what it used to cost us and what it costs us today, the people that we have working for us are really the value, and we wouldn't be able to do it without you. So really, I appreciate all of your hard work. I'll just say lastly that again, this is going to be looked at in November. I expect it to change. I expect it to have some learning curve from this summer. So we'll see what happens. But I think I'll say it again, as many of us have done, that if this needs to change, I see this in a reduction of collection, not an increase in cost. So I say that today and would say that in the fall. If this needs to change, I would see it changed in a reduction of collection, not an increase of staffing and trucks and all those things that the TPA understandably have brought to our attention as a concern. So I agree with those concerns. With that, we have a motion and a second. Do we have any other questions or comments, council? Okay. Roll call.
Councilmember Meyer,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor McDade,
Yes.
Councilmember Bodnar,
Yes.
Councilmember Baldwin,
yes.
Mayor Mullock.
Yes.
Okay. Moving on to the public portion on resolutions only, Mayor.
Anyone wishing to speak on resolutions this evening, please come to the microphone, state your name and address. This is on resolutions this evening.
Amen.
Stacy Shan, 928 Columbia. My question is around Resolution 165.
Stacy, just one moment. I want to add to this public comment, any questions or comments on the presentation on the USS Jacob Jones? So if you have any questions or comments about USS Jacob Jones, while we still have you awake here, John and Miles, thank you for waiting. Please come to the microphone, state your name and address. Sorry, Stacy, go ahead.
That's all right. Again, it's Resolution 165. My comment is, the heading is Resolution as Change Order to Reconstruction of Beach Avenue. But inside the resolution, it states Lafayette and Madison Concrete and things like that. And I didn't think we could be putting change orders all grouped together, that they should be split out so they go with the different projects and we know where they stand.
Mr. City Manager, do you want to answer that?
So that was, and that's one reason why it's a change order. That was for additional extra work. So we had an emergency repair at the corner of, on Lafayette at Madison. There was an accident where a vehicle coming out of Madison hit the fire hydrant and created a large sinkhole, and we had to replace the hydrant there and the sidewalk as part of that. That was work that we could not complete internally, so we had a contractor, Marandino, was working down on Beach Avenue. They were doing concrete work. We asked them to provide a change order price to do extra work to go up and do that. So that wasn't a separate project. And this money will be sent over to the police once it's authorized here to be passed through to the insurance company of the, as part of the claim. But that's why it's part of that. So it's not.
But I guess my point is, though, you have a project.
Yeah.
That project should have its own change orders. And if this project was the Broadway to the Cove, the change order should include what happened on Madison and Lafayette.
Well,
So it was-
contractually, this is how it has to be done.
But why couldn't you just do a resolution for emergency work for this, get it approved, and go that way with it? That way, it keeps the projects in their own little silos so we know what the expenses are.
Well, this is the expense of it, right?
Yeah.
Well, you're saving expenses by having them already here.
It's accounted, it's line itemed in there, and it's really
But
a very small portion in that, when you
But
look
the
at.
expense is exactly
You're talking about out of, yeah.
42,000.
Yeah, but the project was for
You're talking about,
Beach Drive.
we're talking about, it's a $4,900 charge out of a change order of 42,000. So
Right.
it's a minor percentile. I mean, I understand what Stacy's saying, that, yeah, it's a true, but that 4,900
I
is not
think
going
it's
to
the
be a.
logistics, Mr. Dietrich. I think it's the logistics of the fact that you needed to do an emergency appropriation. You had a contractor within the city able to do the work. I think it's just, it's sort of the semantics of, could we have not had a resolution that just identified this contractor associated with an emergency appropriations? I would leave that to you, the city clerk and the lawyers. I don't know. But I think that's the point, but, just
Yeah.
for future.
Isn't that over
Yeah.
the bid threshold?
Because
No.
No?
No, but the idea is, when you do projects, they're bid, and now it's looking like we're putting more money into that project when it really isn't for that project. And that's my point,
Well,
that,
let me just, I understand the point, and I appreciate it, Stacy. But just, on the other hand of this, the city manager, we had somebody, have a car accident into fire hydrant, Public Works gets out, Water Department gets out there really quickly, turns it off. But we have a mess on one of our busiest streets. We have a contractor in town doing exactly the same work, so he got him right over there.
and I have no problem him doing the work. That's not
Right.
my point. The point
Okay.
isn't him doing the work, it's that it's in the wrong basket.
Okay.
There should be the Beach Drive work, and that's a project. It has its own bid number and everything else. This project, or this work is fine, it just shouldn't have been grouped into that as a change order, because it's really not a change order to the work that was done on Beach Drive.
We can't.
That's my-
We can't. I just want to make sure I'm clear. We can't bid it in time to.
Right, and it could be emergency. I'm not saying it's not,
Okay.
that you had to bid it.
Okay.
I'm just saying it shouldn't go underneath a change order
wants a second
to a
resolution.
project.
Okay.
We we could just change it to another resolution for an emergency appropriation to Charles.
Right, because when you go back in a couple years, you're going to think, wow, that took us that much that project was. And if this is going to be insurance, keep it in its own separate basket for that insurance.
So, Mr. Solicitor, are we able to do anything at the table on this right now, or is it kind of water under the bridge and
Not-
future
not
learning
without-
lesson?
I would,
Okay.
I would file this under,
Right.
the form. If that's the way council wants it in the future,
Right.
it can be separated. But this is really, I mean, and not to discount Ms. Sheehan's comment, but the original contract amount was $500,000.
Right.
This was
And
really
eight-
a
8%.
very
Small.
small
Right.
amount, and I think it was for expediency and efficiency of getting it
So,
done.
Stacy, I say, duly noted for future, and we'll just do a resolution for an emergency
But
appropriations.
the thing is I understand what you're saying, then why didn't you put it underneath Resolution 164? Same contractor doing work, it wasn't put there.
Because that project was bid separately originally, but that was an original project bid separately with a different engineer working on it as a separate project. So that was a distinct, discrete project. Here, this was a small, minor corrective work that we did.
Okay,
I understand your point. I do understand
And
your
the
point,
thing
but
is-
it's not,
This isn't my first time coming up here and saying that projects are being grouped together underneath change orders. It happened a few months ago where you put, I'll bring it up to you, Aaron, I know you're shaking your head, but I brought it up before because there was a couple change orders for different projects put underneath the header of one of the construction person that was doing the work. So I'm just making sure, we keep doing this. This muddies the water when they do the bookkeeping and the audits when it comes around again. And that's my point well, first of all, I don't know, did we Beach Drive, I'm assuming that wasn't done with the beach utility, right? So it was just.
No.
Okay, so it was still under capital. Okay.
Thank you. Anyone else on resolutions this evening, also on the USS Jacob Jones?
Yes, good evening. Roz Johnson, 826 Lafayette Street. And I would like to comment on the SS Jacob Jones Monument. Certainly, it's an honorable monument, and I think Cape May would welcome such a well-deserved piece of art. And certainly, sir, you're quite a visionary with what it would look like. It would be beautiful. My question is, you said there were 3 sites that you looked at. What were the other 2, if I may ask?
John, feel free to, yeah.
Yes. We looked at where Beach Avenue meets Gurney, but there's no real space there. There wasn't enough room to do much. And the other was all the way at the end of the promenade to the east at Wilmington. The problem there was the encroachment on the dunes and the impact that would have on the new seawall work with the Army Corps of Engineers.
Okay. All right, great. Okay, so, my next question has to do with the council. What are the steps with approving something like this? Is it broken down to approval of the monument and then separately approval of the location? Or is it all bundled into one?
I'll give that to our solicitor.
I think it's both.
So it's bundled into one? Or is it separate? Or can it be separate?
I think it could be separate. It could, it could be, that's a good location for it. Want to hone in on the design, or that's a nice design. I want to hone in on the location, or both. But those are 2 decision points that council will have to wrestle with.
Okay. I guess I would encourage it being separate, because certainly the monument and how it's been presented looks absolutely beautiful. And like I said, honorable and necessary. But I would like to see a separate vote on the location, only because I think, because it has to do with the promenade, I think residents should be able to voice their opinion on the location, since the promenade is such an important part to the residents. I think they should have input if they choose. Some people, maybe no one has an opinion on it, but I think they need the opportunity to express how they feel about the location. So if it could be two different, I don't want to say issues or votes, I don't know the correct way to say it.
I can tell you, just from listening to a couple of the meetings, that one of the first things that was basically said is, look, we want to make sure we have community buy-in. I know Miles and I forget who actually was tasked, was actually trying to contact some of the survivors or those who passed, family members, which was part of the important,
We have a whole committee working on that, and it's been extraordinarily challenging, but we believe we've identified all the surviving relatives.
Wow, that's amazing.
I'm actually talking about the people that live in Cape May
Oh, sure. No, no,
presently.
I meant, I just, they, from the very beginning, was community buy-in and input, and especially, obviously, the survivors or surviving family members is what I mean.
I do think everyone would agree that there should be a monument,
Yeah.
to our fallen heroes. I'm not sure, I would like to hear from the public how they feel about the location.
Sure.
Okay, thank you.
So may I make just one comment?
Yes.
We're planning on creating a computer-simulated three-dimensional model of it.
Oh.
It actually is not on the promenade. It's actually at the street level where that blank space is, where Howard hits the promenade. Yes, it's directly adjacent to the promenade, but it doesn't interrupt the promenade.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ross. Anyone else on either public comment on resolutions or the USS Jacob Jones? Seeing none, we can close public comment and move on to resolutions. Oh, we'll have public comment right after this. Yeah, absolutely, yep. On anything.
All
Okay.
right, so moving on to the consent agenda, is there anything that anyone would like to remove this
Council,
evening?
anyone wish to remove anything? No? Seeing none, do I have a motion?
I just have to abstain from the February 19th minutes, and I'll make the motion, if that's okay.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Roll call?
Councilmember Meyer?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor McDade?
Yes.
Councilmember Bodnar?
I abstain on the sets of minutes from 2024 and vote yes on the remainder.
Councilmember Baldwin?
I abstain on the one that I came late to.
I think you're still counted as present.
Okay.
Even though you were late, you were still there.
Okay.
I'm counting that as present.
Okay.
Okay, thank you,
Then,
though.
Yes.
And Mayor Mullick?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, on to new business, city solicitor,
Nothing tonight, Mayor, thank you.
city manager,
Nothing, thank you.
city clerk.
Just a few, reminder that on April 19th at 11 a.m. is the Kiwanis Easter egg hunt on the beach in front of Convention Hall. On April 20th at 1 p.m. is the Easter fashion stroll at Rotary Park. And May 7th from 4 to 7 p.m. is the job fair at Convention Hall as well. We encourage participation. City Hall will be closed this Friday, April 18th, in observance of Good Friday. And of course, my shameless mercantile plug, mercantile renewals are due by April 30th. There will be a late fee assessed as of May 1st, so it must be in the office before May 1st. That is as an entire package with your proof of insurance, any required paperwork, okay? So if anybody has any questions, please reach out to my office. I appreciate it.
Thank you, and thank you for your help with that.
Of course.
City council members, Councilmember Baldwin?
Nothing tonight, Mayor, thank you.
Okay. Councilman?
Yeah, just very briefly, Dennis Crowley is still here, of course, as I knew he would be. So, Dennis, I just want to congratulate you again on receiving the proclamation. It was, I know how dedicated you are to Cape May and how hard you work, and I had an opportunity to work with you and see it firsthand. So thank you for everything that you've done for Cape May. And appreciate the fact that you've done so much. And I'm sure a lot of people don't even realize it, but how much you have done to work on issues regarding revenue in Cape May as well as in fairness. So thank you very much.
I told Dennis at our MTRAC meeting closing that he was bold and made us do and go places where no one ever thought we should or could. And it was all illustrated by graphs and tables and lots of information. So that will be missed. And Marty is going to be calling on him, I am sure, to get some assistance, at least in the early days.
Deputy Mayor, anything else?
Yes, I do want to announce that the Community Center open house is scheduled for Saturday, May 3rd, from 11 to 1. Come out. It will be a fun event. Casey's got a bunch of things that she's working on. So everybody, if they could, come see the new community center. It's coming together beautifully. The recreation staff has been doing a fabulous job, and thanks to city administration for their support on the project. Thank you.
Councilman Meyer?
Yes, Mayor, thank you. I just want to also continue to thank you, Dennis, for all the work you've done for the city. You're a very intelligent person. I hope you continue to come to our meetings and share your thoughts. And I think my favorite thing about you is your personality. I think you have a great personality. That being said, I just want to mention that in your water bills, you're going to be receiving a flyer about the lantern flies and the Tree of Heaven. Please be on the lookout around your property or even city properties for Tree of Heaven. The city received a $20,000 grant. We're going to try to find out how many trees we have in this town and then help you remove those trees with some funding. So that's it.
Nice work on that, Councilman Meyer. Yeah, thank you.
And thank you, Mr. Manager, for having those printed.
Yeah. I'm not going to add anything. Thank you very much, and we'll open it up for public comment. Ma'am, if you'd like to. Yeah.
Speak from there? Yes, you can sit here. Yes, absolutely. You can sit down if you'd like to stay right there. You're fine. Okay? Just speak into the microphone. And if you could please just state your name and address for us, okay? Okay. Thank you.
My name is Irene Reamer, and I live in North Cape. Not used to public.
I know, it takes some getting used to.
Okay. My name is Irene Reamer. I live in North Cape May, and I'm honored and privileged to be invited or to be able to come and meet the city council. It has been most enlightening, and I've enjoyed every minute of it. It has been very deep and debatable, not argumentative, but very heated discussions. And what I'm about to say to you is on a much lighter and happier matter. And I hope you'll just listen quietly. Okay. What I'm here today to discuss with you is a matter that not only involves my family personally, but also involves about 400 other families as well, namely the current dedicated beaches on the promenade. The well-advertised Promenade Improvement Project calls for the removal of those benches and their subsequent replacement with 400 new benches, which, according to the city manager, will soon be purchased in entirety as a cost-effective measure. Despite the fact that each of those dedicated benches was paid for by an individual citizen or family, the city solicitor has advised that they are considered public property. I'd like to know how so, because the city did position the benches on the promenade and even took them down one time, if I recall, in anticipation of a storm, possibly Sandy in 2012. After which they were bolted into the concrete and became immovable. To the best of my knowledge, the city has not performed any other maintenance on those benches in all this time. Mayor Mullock, we believe your offer last year giving bench owners the opportunity to remove their bench was not very well advertised, and we never heard whether anyone ever accepted that offer. We realize that many bench owners do not live in or near Cape May and therefore may not have had access to our local newspapers to learn about the offer. Also, when you consider the weight of the bench and the fact that it is bolted into concrete, plus the age of most owners like us, it was a formidable task, as it would be today if we chose to accept that offer, provided that offer still stands. Can you tell us if it does, and if so, how anyone could remove the bench and when?
Okay, so thank you.
Okay.
First off, let me just say this. As you know, we've had this communication, not necessarily us, but as a council, we've talked about this for some time. And let me just make sure we're abundantly clear that we understand people's connection to the benches 100%. A lot of them are memorials to a loved one. So we are certainly understanding of that. However, we have a very real problem of some of these benches really becoming, frankly falling apart. Yeah, rusting and slats being broken, et cetera, et cetera. We did look into, and I just want to be clear that I won't even say the council member because I don't want them to get upset again because it's like the recycling ordinance. We assigned a council member to look at this deeply, okay? And could we repaint them? Could we repair broken slats? Could we look into all of this in a full way? And went out and even got quotes, looked at sandblasting, taking apart the benches, sandblasting and repainting everything. And because, as I'm sure you understand, they have to be in pristine shape. We can't have somebody sit up on the promenade and have the bench fall or break. And okay, so the city has that obligation. The expense of repair, and look, I'm in small business. If this was just me, I would try to paint those things into, but it's not. And doing it to code and to the spec that is necessary, the quotes that we received far outweighed the cost of a new bench. So clearly, at that point, we start looking at new benches and what can we do. Now, as you said, the first thing we put out there was that anyone who paid for the bench, which was at cost, whatever it cost the city at that time is what we charged anyone who wanted a bench, could take the bench home. And no, we didn't want anybody unscrewing benches up there by themselves. What we would have done and would likely do in the future, okay? And by the way, in regards to advertising and things like that, of course, that was some time ago. The attempt was actually, and we didn't do it, right? Remember.
Right.
But what was going to happen was contacting every person that we had on record individually, okay? Now, and then we just didn't do it, right? People were upset. We understand that. And frankly, we weren't ready to move. So this time, we have purchased the benches, put that out there to the public. But we've also said that we will not touch the benches until after this season, okay? So we're not touching the benches until after this summer.
Okay.
At that time, the benches will be removed by Public Works. By the way, this still has to be discussed by council in a very full way, so I don't want to answer this more than I really can now, because this has to be voted on and discussed. I mean, I just want to be clear about that.
Okay.
But what I can say is what's been already basically said is that anybody who had a bench, we're going to help people load their bench into their vehicle, okay, and take them home. Now, I realize that not everyone will be able to do that, and I'm sympathetic, but we can't do that. We can't deliver them to people's houses.
That's understandable.
But we would remove them, and people could have them. What is left for discussion is if people want to do a new bench and have the same memorial. There is a cost. There's going to be some cost, and that's what we have to discuss. Certainly, that cost will be absolutely no more than the cost to the city, okay, the wholesale cost of the bench. And again, that's less than what it was going to cost to repair it, okay? I know that sounds ridiculous, but it's true.
That makes good sense.
The last thing that really has to be discussed by council and how we do this is, is there a small discount or some kind of discount to the folks who already had it, okay? Now, just realize, just like this recycling thing, I'm willing to have TPA members come up to me and say, why am my taxpayers funding someone else's memorial bench? Okay, so I just want you to know there's going to be a little bit of a balancing act that the taxpayers are going to, but let me just say this very clearly. We want to do this as fairly as possible, and we need to keep the benches safe, clean, and we want them to be there for the next 15 years and so on. Okay, so just please understand that the benches can't last forever, and we all know this, but yeah.
Okay, you've answered a lot of the questions I was ready to ask you, but I have just another thing. Can I have your attention for just another minute or two? Okay. Have any of you seen or heard of the book? The
Yes.
Story Behind the Bench?
Absolutely.
You have seen it, okay. Last year at this time, when the matter first came up, it was kind of unheard of here. From records, let's see, where I see. The book was created and edited by a young woman, Regan Gaydash, who spent many summers in Cape May and whose curiosity was aroused while walking along the promenade and reading the inscriptions on the benches. From records obtained through an Open Public Records Act request form submitted to the City of Cape May in 2021, Ms. Gaydash contacted as many owners as possible regarding her proposed work. The result is a collection of very personal memories and incredible stories, which prompted the inscriptions that appear on 93 of the benches. Our story is one of them, and it epitomizes the absolute joy which 5 generations of our family have experienced since we first arrived on Cape May Beach in June of 1969. The book was published in 2022 and is available now in several branches of the Cape May County Library. And thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. We appreciate it.
And we'll be first in line for a new bench.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And do expect us to be in contact with you directly as well. Thank you. Anyone else, public comment this evening? Sir?
Hello, my name is Ed Dixon. I live at 3507 Asbury Avenue in Ocean City. I have come down at a special time with this presentation of Mr. Crowley. He's one heck of a history of work for the communities. And also for this dedication of that ship that was torpedoed out.
Yeah.
And I have looked into that over the past years, and they did a documentary on the military channel on divers going down to check out that particular ship. So I am familiar with that too, and I'm really happy to see that being honored here.
Thank you.
Also, I would like to thank you, especially with this dedication on the ship, for all the support you have given to our veterans, the Memorial Day tribute, the 80th anniversary, which is now the 81st anniversary of the invasion of Normandy, June 6th, then with the Independence Day and Veterans Day, November 11th. All great tributes to our military veterans, even today fighting in foreign countries for preserving freedom. There is one idea that I would like all of you to consider. I am here to ask the Mayor and Council of Cape May to consider dedicating the month of August to our military veterans. It's been a long time. They have allowed us to live in freedom. They have suffered and made many sacrifices for their families and us. It is the veteran, not the preacher, who has given us freedom of religion. It is the veteran, not the reporter, who has given us freedom of the press. It is the veteran, not the poet, who has given us freedom of speech. It is the veteran, not the campus organizer, who has given us freedom of assemble. It is the veteran, not the lawyer, who has given us the right to a fair trial. It is the veteran, not the politician, who has given us the right to vote. I hope that many Americans, just like me, would like to see one day on the calendar the month of August being dedicated to our military veterans across the country. This is part of what I want to accomplish. I come down to speak to you about that in hopes that you might consider that what I'm proposing. That's all I ask, and again, I was down here on a special day, and memory that shipped, I mean, that was really added to part of what I was trying to say. And also seeing Mr. Crowley, because Mr. Crowley dealt in Washington Township, which I am a member of the VFW there in Washington Township. So I may have bumped into him one time or another and not realized it. He's
That's
on
great.
Fish Pond Road. Right, he said he was there a number of times. But that's what all I'd like to do is ask you to consider that.
Absolutely.
And if
Sir,
possible,
I didn't catch your name, sir.
Edward Dixon
Edward,
at 3507 Asbury Avenue in Ocean City.
would you consider working on a resolution with our solicitor?
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, we'll look forward to seeing that resolution at this table, and I think we'd be honored to do that.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir.
You're quite welcome.
Thank you.
Take care.
Have a wonderful evening. Thank you. He'll give you his contact as well.
Okay. All right. Thank you, sir. All right. Terrific. When would be a good time to get a hold of you? Sometime this week. Thank you.
Thank you again, sir. Hi, Stacy.
Hi, Stacy Sheehan, 928 Columbia Avenue. My one question about the benches, are they the same benches that we have up there now that we reordered, or they look different?
They are a little bit
They're,
different.
they're going to, the same style of bench, I think the color is going to change a little bit. They're not going to be the blue, they're going to be black side frames, but it's essentially the same style bench, yes.
Okay. My question is also, are the meters on Beach Drive being removed permanently from the wall?
The sections that we've taken down, there's going to be areas that they may not go up initially. We have, just like when we took some of the meters away from Jackson Street and the, around Washington Street Mall, we brought in some kiosks, so we have 4 kiosks ordered to, replace some of those metered areas, and they will be, I think, ready almost June 1st.
Okay. My question for that is, if you read a lot of the things, like from Stone Harbor, they actually put meters back, I believe, because people complained that the meters were taken away, and they didn't want to do the park mobile, right? And also, if you look at the Cape May County Tourism Report, they also have in there that people are complaining about the meters being taken away. So I don't want us to make the same mistake that other communities made, knowing that people didn't like it. So that was my point for making that. My question comes down to, Leon mentioned about state funding for certain projects will be taken away. Have we found out if any of our projects that we have slated are going to be, any money is going to be taken away, or is it still too early?
Still too early. I mean, none of our current projects that are under construction have lost funding for sure.
For right now, yeah.
So an anticipated project, we don't know definitively yet if any of our dedicated projects that we have earmarked for federal funding have been cut officially.
Okay. Is there a time that the council's going to put out what the capital projects are going to be for the year and what that cost is going to be? And then my next question is, does that include painting the water tower? Because each year it keeps getting pushed away, and they're not painting the water tower. I think we're 5 years behind now in painting the water tower, which is, to me, something that's good for the entire community because it's our water, versus maybe $1 million to paint the water tower would be better than doing $1 million for, a park or something like that. And that's, I know you probably are still deciding what projects you're going to do, but I just want to put it out there in case it's fallen off the radar about
It's
the
in the
water
capital
tower.
budget.
So
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll answer in reverse order. So the water tower was in last year's capital budget. We just got final quotes, and we're going back and forth with the consultants. So I anticipate in a near future council meeting presenting a proposal for professional services to prepare the bids and specs to paint the water tower. So that is imminent, and that is already funded in 2025's or 2024's capital appropriation that was already approved. I anticipate possibly at the next meeting presenting a list of capital projects for council to consider for the upcoming year.
Okay. Thank you.
And just so everybody knows, every time that water tower is brought up, is going to be brought up. I'm going to keep saying the letters need to be moved up about a foot so that everybody can see them.
Because of the cell tower things, yeah. Mr. Cole?
Mike Peter Cole, 1075 Michigan Avenue. On behalf of the TPA and myself, I'd like to congratulate Dennis Crowley for his proclamation. I'm very proud to be president of the TPA and have him as a director. A good effort, Dennis. Yes, good effort. Carry on. That's right. We assigned him, right? As you were assigned as the TPA. Well, what do we do about that, Dennis? You'll still be assigned, I think. No, you're going to be assigned.
Actually, that does bring up a point that anyone wishing to serve on the Municipal Taxation and Revenue Advisory Committee is welcome, and certainly if you have a recommendation from the TPA, please forward that to us. Anyone else this evening? All right, motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you. Have a wonderful Easter, everybody. Thank you very much.
7:21.